Well, it feels good to go live. I am Lurch, former live announcer for Monster Energy Supercross, alongside a six-time outdoor national champion, Broc Glover. Broc, here we are again, a new stadium, not new to the circuit. It's been on the roster many, many times. But let's talk about Oakland. Just got done with Anaheim, had a great track walk there, but now we got to explain a brand new one to these guys.
Absolutely, Lurch, and it's so exciting. Round two, everybody got the butterflies out, mixing that, rubbing elbows. Look, great race. Ken Roxon had a fantastic start to the season. But now we're at round two. All the butterflies, as I mentioned, are out. People are okay. Now it's time to roll up the sleeves and get some results.
Shane McElrath, come here just a quick second. We are Facebook
Whole
Live.
shot Shane. There we go.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
How are you
Man,
guys?
good, man. Good.
New
good.
team this year, second round. You ready for it? Let's take a look at the start, and what are you thinking?
We got about twice as long of a start this weekend.
230 feet, I believe.
230 feet. I don't know what the.
That's all right. I'll give you. I'll drop the facts.
Last week was 150, so it's
Okay.
quite a bit longer.
Yeah. This baseball stadium seems a bit more open. The track layout seems. They've used a lot more of the space, a little bit longer lanes. I think this is built a lot more like a racetrack. And last week it just was a tight layout, but also the track broke down a lot, but it didn't wear down. And so like by the time we got to the main, it was like a tough track.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're known for great starts, and you didn't forget how to do those in the off season. So you got right up front on a new bike. What did it feel like for you to be back in that 450 class up front?
it was nerve-wracking. I was struggling focusing the first half of the day. I'm like, dude, felt like my first Supercross again. I'm like, all right, just especially once we lined up for the heat race, it's like, all right, we're all here, we're all equal, and I know I can get a good start. I know I can run some laps, and so it was like everything else do away with.
All right, we'll be watching for the number 12 tonight. Get another start, man.
Good job, buddy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. So speaking of starts, let's head down the starting line right now. As mentioned, 230
feet. And last week it was a short one. I think it was 125, 150.
148 to be exact.
Okay.
But yeah, we're not. Who's talking numbers here? But yeah, so it just seemed even shorter last week because it just kept turning and turning and turning. So it was.
So let's stop right here. Take a look at the starting gate here. Obviously, it's going to be another left-hander for these guys. Where are you thinking they're going to line up on the doghouse or the preferred spot?
Yeah, I think the preferred spot you're going to see is probably right around the Rocky Mountain ATV MC tough block there. Maybe even a little bit left of it to where you're seeing right now. Last week's winner, Ken Roxon, is eyeing his gate right now, so we can see what he's thinking already. He's already pre-announcing what he's thinking. He's looking there with his mechanic, Jordan. He's going, yeah, I think probably about the third or fourth gate in. So Kenny's known for his good starts too, and obviously last week he rode fantastic in Anaheim, pulled off his first win of the season and at the first race, so already got the red number plate.
All right, left-hander. Now, last week we were in a baseball stadium. This one is sort of a hybrid. It is a baseball stadium and a football stadium. They do it both. So I think we got a lot more floor room than we usually have on some of these events.
Yeah, this Oakland Stadium here has been on the circuit off and on. I hate to date myself, since the 1970s. And back in the dinosaur days, this was the infamous location where Jimmy Weinert used a paddle tire because the entire track was made of sand, and he won here, and they outlawed paddle tires after that.
I got you. Now look at this. It's going to be a blind turn. Obviously the berm built up here. These guys are going to try to suck to the inside. I'm guessing the track line is the edge of the berm, and that could get a little tighter to the berm each and every time.
Yeah, that little bank right there, I'm sure they're going to have to trim that out a little bit. You see right here, it could be catching some foot picks. But yeah, I think real tight here. It's going to be important to keep your inside line here. The inside line is going to control the corner, and then if you need to drift wide, you can. But anybody that gets the whole shot there is probably going to be one that's real close to the inside.
To give a better perspective to everybody who's watching, you can see this first little rhythm section heading into the Dunlop bull turn. We're going to take a walk on the outside of the track so you guys can get a better feel of what we're looking at as far as this first step up. And it looks like they're going to blip over the second one. What do you think the rhythm in this is going to be?
Yeah, I think some of the riders probably be even pulling the front wheel up and then just flipping the knob on the top, carrying the next section, and then good question if they're going to be able to get a triple or not. This is the first race also that is including the Supercross Futures class. So we did get to see some of the Supercross Futures get a few laps out here yesterday. Ryder DeFrancesco seemed to be the class of the field. He was his time was about 4 or 5 seconds faster than the second place rider, but you know, it's going to be interesting to see with the Supercross Futures out here, and also the 250 and 450 class.
When you talked about the stopwatch with him, where did he compare to the 250 class that was out there as well?
Well, we didn't get to see any times on the 250 class. I know they were keeping those guys off the track. There were a few press riders, but that was about it. The Supercross Futures got to do their track walk. They got to do an actual qualifying session, so they'll be able to go right to the gate pick tonight, and they will spend a lot less time on the track than the normal 250 and 450 SX classes.
You know, and for a lot of people who don't know, we talk about the Futures class. That's actually how these guys are going to step up and get their pro license to race Supercross in the up and coming years, trying to gather those points. Used to be the Ricky Carmichael road to Supercross through the Arena Cross, but now it's the Futures, and we have seen such a great young breed of athletes coming up, and it's a lot different than when you were in the age. I mean, back then you got on a bike, you just did your own program, you had some great results, but these guys here at the age of 8, 10, 12, they've got trainers, both physical, the nutritionists, they're riding at some of the pro tracks, the teams test on if they're like a, say, Team Green rider. I mean, it's pretty amazing what these guys are doing.
It is. I mean, you go down to Florida and you pick any one of those locations, for instance, like the Sandbox near Orlando area, you'll see some of the amateur riders, Casey Cochran, some of the guys that are come on Team Dunlop Elite, they'll be riding alongside of Ken Roxon, and it's like, these guys get it. I was lucky when I was a kid, I got to ride with some legendary San Diego-based guys, Marty Smith, Tommy Croft, some riders, Marty Tripes, like that. And so I got to see from that too. But my very first time I ever got on a Supercross track ever was at the Anaheim Stadium. At the very first Anaheim, they had a high school motocross intermission race, and boy, I thought that was as good as it could possibly get. Now the Supercross Futures, this is the future of our sport.
Now, we had the advantage last week to see, after press day, the lines in this bull turn.
Yep.
How do you see this bull turn coming out? Obviously, they have the ability to go super wide, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. Last week, after a couple of those corners that we saw, that's when we saw all the action. Man, we
Hi,
saw
Kenny. Kenny, got a split second?
I got to
I'm on COVID. I gotta go.
Okay,
I think you're late. I want to make it around the track.
Okay,
first.
bye.
Bye, guys.
We'll catch up with him later. I understand.
Soup
Go
ready
ahead.
for me?
Huh?
If you don't have any soup ready for me, I'm not talking to you.
Here's my
Okay,
soup.
I'm going to bring it. Next one I drive to, you got it. You're done.
A little
And then you're going to be talking to me all day.
little inside joke with Lurch and his soup. But we've got the corners here. Last week we said the 180s, and we were able to see the lines where they had maybe one entry line, a couple of exit lines. Same here. But the problem is we don't get to see the tire tracks. So I can assume this corner right here is going to be another action-packed corner right here. And so with the 180 right off to the start, it's the second corner that the riders have faced after the start. It's going to be really congested here on the start of the race.
First of two set of whoops here. Obviously, you see the first one. It dips down a little bit lower before they start the main pack, and that's to help compact the suspension, get them be able to get the lift, and then start their run.
Yeah, the first rider I ever really saw just master this technique was the great Jeremy McGrath. He would hit this small little bump and he would unload his bike. Almost his BMX background kind of seemed to help him. He would let the bike come light and then get up on top of the whoops, and he continued on. Chad Reed adopted that same style. You've seen some of the good whoop riders, and I look for Malcolm Stewart to do the same, James Stewart. These riders that get through the whoops really, really well. They use the very lightweight. They get the bike unloaded, and they get up on top of them, and they just focus on just the tips of each one of these. They don't look down at the base like us slow folk would do. They just look at the very tops of these whoops, and they just spot where they want to go, 2 or 3 whoops out ahead, and they just get the bike front end light, and they just skim across them. But these things, incredible. If you can see the difference, if Lurch, you'll back up down there.
Yeah, you stay right there.
No, you get on the bottom. I want to be the tall one here.
Okay.
I got my lifted shoes on, but the difference between Lurch and I right now, you can see how deep these whoops are.
I'd say about 4 feet.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, to me, it's remarkable they even can ride through them. And people who've never been on the track and watch from the stands, or maybe only watch from TV,
Give me a second, please.
they just cannot see how they, why can't they go faster through these? But most of average rider cannot possibly even make it through this. And speaking of an above average to ultra elite rider, we happen to have another rider here that gets through the whoops real well.
Not last week.
Not last week. So how are you feeling? I know you're not.
Yeah, your
100%.
Instagram post said that hey, I'm throwing this out there. I'm not 100%, but I thought you had some good runs.
Yeah, I've definitely, I have the grade 3 shoulder separation, so it is what it is. It's not ideal, but it's getting better. I'm not making it any worse. That's the main thing. There's no other, it wouldn't make sense for me to, surgery's not an option or anything like that. So it's just about being patient and just taking it as an opportunity to ride smart and just kind of build from there, I guess.
Well, that sounds good. I'm going to let you keep going on the track.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, AC.
Appreciate it.
All right.
So let's blast through these whoops. Let's move through them pretty good, because that's exactly what these guys are going to be doing. And then we're hitting the other bowl turn. So back-to-back bowl turns could set up guys, depending on how they come out of the first corner, set up in the whoops. They could be the far left, far right, and they might even do that with the finish line after that. They might have to set themselves up well in the whoops to be able to clear that finish line.
And you think about that. So you're coming off the start. You got a 180 right there. 180 right before the whoops. If you stuff somebody and you take away his momentum, that person's going to struggle all the way through. That rider, he's going to totally struggle, lose maybe a second or two through the whoops if he gets, loses his momentum with a stuff pass. Then you come at the very end, just the opposite. Someone coming through here makes a pass. You stuff somebody here, he's going to struggle to get over the finish line. It's a long shot coming up. So very important, that corner before the whoops and the corner after. Both 180s. Going to be a lot of rub and a lot of action. So we're going to take a little bypass here over the finish line jump. As we see Joe Shimoda coming up, another one that I expect to see get up on the podium real soon. Had a little struggle on the first lap or two.
He got stuck in the gate.
Yeah, he and Mosiman had some troubles at the beginning of the race there.
But what an effort in that 250 main event. I think he worked himself up to maybe top 10.
Oh yeah,
he was dead last.
I believe he was 6. We could ask Joe, but yeah, I think it is. But yeah, he was right there. Had a good run, and I expect to see both him and Michael Mosiman. And Mosiman won his heat race last week, so I do expect to see both of those riders up at the top on the podium. So
this is everybody's favorite.
You got it. This is the Oakland, a deep colored sand, got it probably right from the bay here, and it looks a little bit almost like cement. It's kind of a deep gray, but the full sand. Whoops in the center.
Rollers on the left, or
smooth
on the left.
Berm on the outside. Trying to develop 2 lines through here, so it's going to be exciting.
All right, let's keep moving. Obviously, this is something that is living, breathing. This is going to change. The line that you took in lap number 1 compared to lap number 3, this thing is going to keep shifting. And if a guy doesn't get a smooth, straight run through it, you're going to see some massive fishtails through some of the sand section.
Absolutely. And there's this stuff is tear off goggle companies' nightmare. The goggle reps are going, oh my gosh, these guys are going to be grabbing tear offs every single time as they come to this wall. Old school, love it. Kill the speed. Come flying out of the sand right there. Boy, that was pretty good, Lurch. I gotta do this
just in case. Just in case.
That was a pretty good wall. Old school, very steep, nearly vertical at the top. On this left side, it is almost vertical. It's hard to see on the camera.
About that kind of angle.
But it's
see that angle right there?
They're gonna be slowing these guys down, and they're gonna be coming back down, and you're gonna see massive roosts coming off the top of this as the guys dump the clutch to accelerate across the starting line.
And you talk about a thing like this. One of the guys that always seems to just I don't know if it's Excel or just a full send, and that's a 51 of Barsha. I think it was the wall was here, and then it was sand whoops a couple of years ago, and he was launching probably 15, 20, 30 feet into it, and everybody else is doing the old slam up against it, hit it, and then get on the juice.
15, 20 feet high, probably 60, 70 feet.
A moon booter.
No, he was absolutely a moon booter. Is a good call on that. But yeah, the riders can come here, little bit of a hip jump, boom, pop here, clear this. And then right here, you'll see,
change of direction.
Yeah, the difference here. It's going to be interesting. This is much wider on this side. This pocket on the left side is much narrower. But I think you're going to see riders go to the inside. Obviously, the shortest distance, if you're carrying the equal speed, is going to be faster. So they're going to try to go the inside line as we kind of do a natural curve through this section. Towever, when you get to this next section up here, I think the riders, nice flat corner. I love to see these once in a while. Just not, the track designers do not define exactly where the riders have to go. This is their option. Totally flat. You can see it right here. So you can do all sorts of things here.
It'll change the elevation on the first jump for these guys as well, depending on what they want to do to get through.
Exactly. Probably roll the inside. Obviously, it's designed to pop the outside and land on top of the table. But it gets you off rhythm. And that gives you options, especially if the track, for any reason, maybe gets a little grooves, gets a few ruts in it. It does look like the track over here is just the dirt is a tiny bit softer. just, I think you're going to see some ruts develop across the face of these jumps. And if that does happen, that's where the riders start changing, get what we call off rhythm, try to do something different than they were doing than their competitors or what they were doing the time before.
Broc, when you've mentioned some past names of riders, guys that you grew up with, you just saw with NBC and Cirillo, Nick Way, the original number 27, so to say. A lot of these riders that are past their career point are now coming back as riding training partners. That Nick Way's one of the guys working with NBC and Cirillo. So then you've got the knowledge of Adam and Nick, and they're really putting a good plan together.
Absolutely, another rider-coach combination, and then you have another one that I saw out walking the track yesterday was Ivan Tedesco, rider Di Francesco. So it's cool to see Ivan. He tests the bikes for a pro circuit, still involved in the sport, comes out, works with the riders, coaches the riders, and helps them. Just sometimes it's just one little tiny bit of information, or just changing one little thing.
A new perspective. A lot of stuff. They may not see something. Yep. And you got to think up in the skyboxes, once this practice starts going, all the factory teams and even some of the privateer teams, they've got their film crews there. So they're going back and looking at tapes just like a football team would, to sort of, you know what, we didn't see that. Look at how well this was working. His time was better than yours. This could be an option. And it really opens up their eyes to some of the potential things that they can do out there.
Yeah, and a lot of the teams are, utilize the software that they can overlay by filming one rider and then filming the next rider, one of their own, maybe, and the rider who has the fastest split in that section. They have software they can overlay. You see them sometimes used on television broadcasts of like slalom skiing and things like that. Where you
like
can
a style check. You're seeing two guys side by side going.
You actually lays it over a ghost image, and these riders can tell exactly where they're losing time, and it's virtual exact time locked in, and you can see at the end of the section if your rider is behind or ahead, and you say, oh, I see why I'm losing time. So it's really, I don't mean it's no excuses, but it's kind of no excuses why you can't figure it out.
And where I thought you were going with that is the engine mapping, how they, each track is a little different. They can get the engines to hit in certain spots a little harder or softer as they go. So
yeah, you're talking about engine mapping too. I mean, when these mechanics now, the old days you used to have a screwdriver and you take the air screw and you change the pilot jet. Now they do everything on a laptop computer, and sometimes they can see, and it is quite interesting. I've heard some statistics of multi-time Hall of Fame racers and things where they're, grew up in just the beginning of this era, where they were showing that they were truly only on the throttle. It was like 20-some% of the time in a Supercross lap. Wow. I mean, that's crazy. And a full throttle was super rare, but just even being on the throttle was less than 30%. So pretty interesting. That's a busy time when you're up in the air that long. That doesn't count for Barsha, though. He'd be much higher numbers. We can hear the revs and watch some of the GoPro footage where he's bumping her off the limiter once in a while. It's a fun thing to watch. You could probably sell ride tickets for that. The old days in Disneyland, we call that an e-ticket.
So let's talk about it. A football stadium and a baseball stadium. This is one of the longer runs here.
Hey, I'm a Charger fan. You can drop the whole Raider history and all. Just stop with the football, okay?
It is. It's a football baseball stadium.
I'm a lowly Charger fan, okay? Never mind.
So this longer section here, do you think it's going to be one way is the only way through this whole section here? Unless something happens.
Right. I mean, we are working, looking back at this section right here. You see highs and lows. No. The answer to your question is no. There'll be different options. People will do different things. And as we mentioned earlier, on the other lane going the opposite direction, you have where track will get, if it gets some ruts and things like that, riders will try to mix it up a little bit. One thing they definitely want to do, the riders will want to do, as we turn the other way. At this point right here, the stuff block pass will most of the time come from the rider who is landing on the downside of this and going right to the inside and block pass.
The old okie doke move.
Yeah, the old okie doke. You lose all your momentum.
Looking left, turning right.
Exactly. Bye. And here's another situation that we also saw just over there after the first set of whoops on the finish line jump. This is a great big launch shot here that we'll have to go up. This is, to me, this is a triple without the middle bump. And
this is a weird finish line jump.
It is a big pop right here. It's a long ways, and if you get stuffed in the corner before it on a 250, you might have a hard time getting enough drive to really clear this thing comfortably. And if you do not clear this, you're going to lose massive amounts of time.
Yes, I would concur.
Seconds. Exactly.
All right, well, we'll get to the top of this one. This one, we could walk the distance. That's just a bowl turn, a single jump coming back across the start straight. So it's a 3-time cross over the start lane. So this section's not going to be used throughout the night except for the start.
Yep.
So we're going to drop down and jump right back into the track over here.
Yep. Pretty rare that you do see a track cross 3 times. I mean, maybe Dallas, a couple other ones here and there, but not often, huh?
Oh. Now left-hander, soft turn, probably maybe some inside potential here to set up for that next section. Really, I don't know. A set of whoops after that, they're gonna have to have some good speed if they're gonna stay on top. And what gear are these guys going in? You know, one thing at the start, remember back in the day, Andrew Short, he was actually starting in 3rd. Has that really caught on?
Yeah, some riders it has, or they change the gearing of their bike and the mapping electronics. Nowadays, they can do so much between the gearing and the mapping.
With the software, not the hardware, so to say.
Yeah, both, combination both, so that they just use 2nd gear. I started 3rd gear in the old days on the old YZ 490s and things. It's you have to be very careful. I mean, you can literally wait, I'm doubting what gear I'm in, sort of a thing.
Right.
I think Andrew in those days, if there was something, somebody told me that he had either a light or something what told him what gear, like if it changed, if it was in the wrong gear. But you definitely want to be in the correct gear if you're doing 3rd gear, and it's easy to not be. So I think the riders, what I'm saying is that the riders would like to do 2nd gear. It's easier. So set the bike up to where 2nd gear is the optimal RPM, etc. for the start. But when they come around here and they're going to pop a gear, and usually right here before the whoops, they will shift up to a higher gear. I talk about the technique when you're going in whoops. You see riders do panic revs, and the reason they do panic revs is it speeds up the rear tire, and that gyroscopic motion drops the rear end of the bike.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
So when it drops the rear end of the bike, it keeps you from endoing. That's why you see people panic rev when their front end drops too much.
Yep.
These are miniature panic revs all the way through. So when you're in a higher gear and you've got the throttle pinned, each time that rear wheel hits this whoop, it gets airborne. And as it kicks you up at that point, the panic rev brings the rear back down. So by being in a higher gear and keeping the throttle pinned, miniature panic revs between each one of these whoops drops the rear and helps keep the front high. So there's your Supercross.
How easy is it to correct in whoops? Are you pretty much front end's pointing that way, that's where we're heading?
Well, you see what happened, unfortunately, to like a rider of the quality of Colt Nichols. I mean, his skill level is at the very, very elite championship level rider, and he even makes little tiny mistakes. If you hit one of these whoops and your front end skips the next one, and then when it skips it, instead of getting the bounce and a rebound off of it,
don't go anywhere.
It drops. If it drops, that's over the bar, so it's catastrophic.
Great job last week.
Yeah, good job.
Michael, taking a look at these, what are you and your team
Michael
talking about?
Mosiman, we talked about you earlier. There.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So when you look at whoops, what are you and the team thinking? Last week, the whoops right by the podium, which you ended up on. Congratulations on your
No,
big
he
heat
got
win.
the heat rate. No, he raced race. He won
That's
the
still
heat
podium.
race.
It's
He
still
won the
podium.
heat,
He won the
heat
heat.
race.
Won the heat. That set broke down a lot during the night. I mean, it was skipping like a rock across an old farm pound.
Yeah, it was pretty.
2 sets of whoops in this one. This one the longer one. What are you thinking?
I just look at the spacing mostly. We practiced some jumping earlier because we know these ones break down a lot. Yeah, kind of just looking at how they are initially, and they're going to develop throughout the night, and kind of we'll have to reassess then. So I'm just kind of worried about first practice right now and take it from there. Some funny spacing around here, 2 really close together, and then it looks like it spreads out.
Looks like a couple lower than higher.
Yeah, sometimes to the sides it's a little steeper. Right here in the middle, they're like really fat. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, we'll just kind of see where it is. My bike's really good, so I can kind of just trust coming with good technique. And sometimes with a little more speed like this, you need to carry the front where you can get away with not on other ones. So
all right, go catch up.
we'll
Go
see.
catch up with the
Appreciate it.
team.
Thanks,
Congratulations on the big heat win last week. Expect more of you this week.
Exactly. We talked about Michael earlier that we do expect to see him in the podium. Maybe Joe Shimoda from Pro Circuit Kawasaki. These guys are podium level riders. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately I think you got stuck in the gate, and Joe and some of the other issues that we had last week. So he did make a very interesting point. Yeah, some of these whoops, like you see this one, very, it's closer together. It's not your traditional 13 whatever feet they
It's
say.
about
apart.
13 feet
Yeah,
peak
but
to
I think
peak.
that one looks about 11. But even if it is 13 from peak to peak, it's very rounded. So these riders are going to get a lot more tire contact across the top of them. You can see where some of the future riders were actually digging out here, but I'm sure these were some of the slower laps for those riders, and they aren't at the level of these 250 and 450 SX riders, where they're a little bit more practice on these style of whoops. So it's gonna be a fun one. But this is a long set of whoops right here. It's the whole length of this lane.
You know, and every one they hit, sometimes it does rob that little bit of speed, so you might see them getting loose there at the end. And that, you know, body positioning comes into a key point of it as well, hanging off the rear fender as much as you can. Keep that front end light in case it does dip down. It could be your saving grace, so to say.
It could very much so. And another neat kind of a, you know, it's more than a 90, a little bit of a 120-degree corner here. Another flatty. I like that. I like the fact they're giving these riders options, and they can take different lines. It's when everybody's locked into a groove, it's kind of like a slot car race. You know, I like to see it where I want to see riders race other riders more than I want to see them race the track. So.
And we are reconnecting to where the just after the start, you can see a little kicker right there.
Yep.
So that could set them up because we talked about skipping on, skipping off, or this. So if they hit this, I don't know.
Well, we made it. Neither of us fell. We did good. We made
Yeah, we
another
did all
complete
right.
lap here at Oakland Stadium for the second round of the Monster Energy Supercross Series.
We'll see you guys.